This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, hi there, everybody, and thank you, Parker. I'm your host, Jim Ervin, and this is Time Signatures Live. That's right, we are recording live, doing the Storytellers Club. Do me a favor and click the subscribe button down in the lower right-hand corner if you would. That way you'll never miss an episode, and by all means, please share, and thank you as always. We are, as I said, recording live today at the shop in Hazel Park, Michigan. And this is the fourth installment of something I began sort of as a tongue-in-cheek deal a couple of years ago. And thanks and credit to my good friend Mike Scory over in Lansing. The concept is simple. You get a bunch of guys together like we have here before you today, and you sit around a table just like this one. And with a little bit of prompting, the stories they just flow like a hurricane or a lava from a volcano. Just have a great time. You know, it's all there is to it. Now, if you've ever heard of a group of fishermen sitting around doing the same thing, telling stories, you know how it is. The tales just keep getting taller. So we are going to have fun. At the top of my list is our first guest and your host today. He is also the owner of this venue, known lovingly as The Shop, and president of No Cover Productions. He has produced albums for several local musicians, including Motor City Josh and the Big Three. Ladies and gentlemen, the man himself, Mike Boulan. Let's hear it for him. Our next guest is no stranger to the shop. Actually, none of these guys are. But the band Gopherbroke was originally formed in 1973 when members of two bands joined forces. Their music ranges from covers of Paul Butterfield Blues Band, Albert Collins, Siegel Schwall, Jay Giles Band, and others. Ladies and gentlemen, vocalist and harmonicist Mike Shields.
Hello, everybody.
Next up, it's another top gun in the music business, boasting about 40 years in the business. You might remember him from his early days as a guitar player for Detroit's legendary Johnny B. Badanchik. He has also served as band leader for my good friend Earl Thomas. We're going to talk about that later. And bassist, lead guitarist for Detroit vocal great Joey Farmer. These days, you'll also catch him running around the Metro Detroit area as band leader and frontman for the Flying Crowbars. Let's welcome Erich Goebel, ladies and gentlemen. And last, but certainly not least, our final guest has an incredibly deep pedigree. The original lead guitarist for Jackie Wilson, also Hank Ballard and the Midnighters. He and his band, Billy Davis and the Upsetters, served as Berry Gordy's first in-house band. Oh yeah, and by the way, he was a mentor to the late Jimi Hendrix when he was just 16 years old. Let that sink in for just a little bit. It's with great pride that we welcome another legendary musician from the D, Mr. Billy Davis. All right, guys, welcome to Time Signatures. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming out here. We have one rule. We just have fun. That's all we're going to do. Get the stories going, and if somebody has a story and they're talking at the time and you've got something to throw in, by all means, feel free to do just that, okay? We're not going to come over and beat you with the club or anything like that. So I want to start off with Billy. What are your earliest memories of music?
Earliest memory started in 1954.
Okay.
That's when I grew up listening to it, you know, on the radio, you know. But my first contact being physically involved was in 1954. And I was on my way home one day, and I saw a guy sitting on the porch playing a guitar, you know. And he was blind. So that's where I stopped, and I asked him, could he teach me how to do that, you know. So that's where it began.
Very cool. All right, Mike Shields.
Early on in fabulous New Baltimore, Michigan, about 20 miles from here. Grew up high school bands, playing clarinet of all things, and then traded that little clarinet in for a bass guitar, which I played poorly for a couple of years in different bands, and went to Wayne State in '66. Lived downtown on 2nd and I-94 next to United Sound Studios, and stumbled across blues stuff and harp stuff. After lots and lots of practice and annoying people by not being able to play it all, you learn stuff and you steal somebody else's licks and you find somebody you like. And that continues. Here, lived in Chicago for a couple years, played there.
Nice.
Vegas for 25 years, played there. Moved back here 2018 and reunited the boys. So,
Very cool.
Still at
Very
it.
cool. And I want to say something too. If you hear a bell ringing or a little buzzer going off, that's okay. It's just people showing up to the shop. They're a little bit late. We're not going to give them any crap for not being here on time.
Penalties and fines.
Yeah, penalties and fines. There you go.
Well, in their defense, normally nothing starts here till 8:30 at night. So this is like everybody got up out of bed.
Yeah, but look at the
We're
crowd,
still drinking
man.
coffee, you know.
Yeah, look at the crowd. We got a good group in here today. All right. Eric, how about you, man? What's your earliest memories of music?
Well, I come from a family. My grandfather was a jazz drummer. My mother was a piano teacher.
Mhm.
My father's really was a serious jazz bow. So I was raised on jazz. But the thing that did it for me, I also have two older brothers, so I had all the rock and roll you could stand.
Right.
But for me personally, what it was seeing B.B. King and Bobby Blue Bland when I was 12
Oh, man.
in the front row. And, you know, the man himself was right there. The amp was pointed right at my face. As soon
Wow.
as he hit that note and opened his mouth, my life has never been the same. So,
Was it at a venue somewhere?
yeah, it was actually at a cool jazz festival in Philadelphia on the Delaware River downtown there, and Cool Cigarettes at the time. So,
Okay.
yeah, and it was BB and 3B, and I was very fortunate to be able to attend that show. And my life has never been the same ever since. I've still never seen anything quite like that. I mean, that was prime time BB at his peak. So
Right on.
it was
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah. Mhm.
Mr. Boulan, first memories of music.
It's quite a different story for me. There
That's
was
okay.
not a lot of music in my family growing up, and I just had a little radio this big that I could tune in late at night and listen to music I could catch on the radio. And then back in the day, they used to have a show called the California Jam that they would show late at night on TV just before the TV signed off, back when the TV would sign off for
2
the night.
a.m., yeah.
Yeah, and I would catch that, and there wasn't a lot of exposure to music for me until around high school time. My brother got in a band. They were performing at my house, so that was my first exposure to live music, was seeing my brother start to play. But
Fun. Very fun. All right, let's talk for just a moment of how each of you got involved in your first band. Now, I know you didn't get involved with a band, but you can tell other stories about how you got involved with recording and stuff like that if you'd like. Your first paying gig. How old were you with your first paying gig? Mike, we're going to start with you.
This is unofficially the first paying gig, but there was a Blind Pig bar in downtown New Baltimore that my father used to frequent and would drop us off at church. God forbid he should come pick us up after church, but we'd walk, my sister and brother and I in our little church clothes after singing in a choir, would walk to this Blind Pig, knock on the door. Lady would come up, she knew us, let us in. The basement smelled like wet newspaper and cat stuff. And there would be 6 little guys sitting at the bar drinking. And at some point, my father would announce that his children would now sing church songs. And all the guys would give us like a quarter. So that's really the first paying gig.
There you go. Eric, how about you, man?
I was 15, and I was playing guitar in a hardcore punk rock band out in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And it's been ever since. That's where it all started for me.
That was your first paying gig.
That was my first paying gigs, yeah, and we ended up playing several with that group and moved on to a bunch of other bands after that fact. So,
Nice.
yeah, good
Nice.
times. We were good times.
Very cool. How about you, Billy?
Well, my first paying gig was with a keyboard player. His name was Robbie. He could only play in one key, in E flat,
Okay.
and he could only play a slow song and a shuffle. That's all he could play all night long.
he had 2 songs.
And then, but I played with him on at a place called Pete McCluskey's bar on Buchanan on the west side,
Okay.
and making about $3 or $4 a night, something like that. You know.
Wow. Wow.
That-
Very cool.
I remember my first time I got paid. What happened is I was doing amateur recording already, but just at my own house, you see. And
I have to interrupt. How old were you the first time you started recording? When you started dabbling with it?
14 when
Okay.
I recorded my brother's band in the basement.
Okay, go ahead.
But so I had my little amateur setup, and there was this musician that recently passed named James Glass. It was really integral to my involvement in all this.
Yes, sir.
So I was at this bar and I was seeing him play, and we started to kind of become friends, and he ended up coming to my house. He saw the little setup. He said, "You should come record me in a bar." So I did that. And when I played back the recordings, if there was just the band playing, it sounded great. When they started to sing, it was horrible. So I went back to the bar again, and I'm listening while I'm recording, and I'm like, oh yeah, sure enough, when he's singing, it just sounds horrible. It's not the tape, it's what's actually happening.
Oh,
So
wow.
so I bought a PA and everything to try to make it sound better. And long story short, after a couple of years of that, and James had no money, so I told him, look, you don't have to pay me. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing. So once I kind of had a handle on what I was doing, I said, look, I've bought a lot of equipment. You know, I think you guys should start paying me. And James said, look, I can't start paying you. It was actually Billy Landless, James's bass player. He pulled me aside and said, look, James, you know how James is. He needs the money. He's not going to be able to afford to pay you. But I got a guy that can afford to pay you. He's a pro, and it's going to be kind of hard, but you'll like working with him. His name's Rob Knoll. So that was my first paying gig. I did sound for Rob Knoll.
Wow.
Guitar player,
Yeah.
wore a little hat.
He was Albert
Yeah.
Collins' guitar player. He's
good.
got a
Oh,
lot
man.
of credentials.
Deep
He's the real-
pedigree, yeah.
He's the real deal.
All right, guys, here's one of my favorite questions. Talk about your worst Roadhouse gig. And if chicken wire was included around the stage, you get extra points. Eric, I'm going to start with you, man.
Man, that's a hard one to answer. I haven't had too many bad gigs, you know. Even the bad ones, I don't have negative memories on. I guess I've been fortunate to have good bands, so we didn't get booed or shit thrown at us. You
All
know?
right.
It's a plus. Say we were pretty fortunate.
All right, very good. Let's go over to Mike. Have you ever had one of those happen when you're recording?
Well, when I was doing live sound for the Detroit Blues Band, I'll never forget this. And some of the details elude me because it was 25 years or 20 years ago. But we were in downtown Detroit, and we were playing at this bar. And back then, they ran tabs. It was regular for the band to have tabs. But there were limitations. And
Find out about that later.
Jim had put his girlfriend on the tab. The bar owner had refused payment of the tab. It escalated into an argument, and Emmanuel was trying to get Jim out of there, and we were all outside of the bar.
You remember the bar?
It was downtown Detroit.
Miami.
Wasn't the kitchen?
No, it was in Greektown.
Okay.
It was in Greektown because we were out on the streets. I remember the buildings were high and we were going between the buildings. But anyway, the owner of the bar came out and he wanted blood, and now Jim wanted blood.
Yeah.
And it was Emmanuel holding Jim back.
Oh,
It was like over a tab, you know. It was like, oh my God, just get me out of here. And I'm the sound man. I'm a young guy on the scene, you know, but I don't want to jump in, you know. It was pretty crazy.
Billy, how about you? Worst Roadhouse gig you've ever had?
Oh, wow. That's a hard one. See, I can't really think of it.
Okay, well, you're not going to lose points for that. That's all right. Mr. Shields.
Yeah, I'm kind of with these guys. I didn't have anything where the venue was horrible.
Man, you guys are tame.
Owners that were
You guys
horrible.
are tame.
Or maybe we're good.
We tolerate nothing.
Maybe some of these other guys were booed because they weren't.
That could be.
I'll tell you a story of a disaster.
Okay.
This is this is the worst thing that ever happened to me doing sound. I was doing sound for Robert Knoll. We were at a outdoor gig in Kego Harbor out there where he lived. And Paz Man was pretty big at the time. You know, what was that band that he had back then?
Mud Puppy?
Mud Puppy, yup. And they were really pretty big on the scene. And I had never worked with him before. But he hired me for this gig. And it was, they used to have that boat that sat right on the Detroit River.
Uh-huh.
And you could do gigs in it. It was a big boat and it was permanently parked there.
Oh, wow.
And so the gig was at that boat. So now I got to get from the gig to downtown Detroit. I had it all timed out. I knew pretty well how long this should take. So I jump in the truck and I start going, and we hit this huge traffic jam. When we find out it's the hoedown in downtown Detroit. So
Oh, man.
Back then you were getting.
where our gig is like 200 yards from the epicenter of the hoedown. It's just,
Oh,
so
wow.
by the time I get to the boat, I'm an hour late. I'm completely upset. I come in, I start slamming stuff around, and there was a guy in Pasman's band. He was kind of a small guy. And apparently he knew karate and stuff.
Mhm.
And stuff.
Another
I don't know. When I get upset, I see red. So I'm seeing red. I'm slamming stuff around, and he comes over and says, "Hey, you can't be acting like this." And I said, "Who the hell are you? You know, to be talking to me like this because I don't know who he is."
Right.
And then Pasman comes over and he goes, "Hey, you better watch it. You know, that guy will kick your ass." And I say loud over from here, "Hey, bring him on, you know."
Yeah.
Fuck that shit. So while I'm getting upset, I'm swinging around. I drop my soundboard.
Oh,
I break the fuse connector off the soundboard
oh.
in the middle of all this.
Yeah.
And we're trying to salvage the situation. There's no possible way I can get out, get something, and get back.
No.
And then someone says, "Look, there's a band that plays here all the time. Their stuff is all sitting here. It's under tarps. Everything's here. There's even a soundboard."
Ah.
So I have to abduct their soundboard, jerry-rig it into my system, create some kind of a system so because some kind of a gig. Pasman didn't talk to me for a decade.
Oh, wow.
We're friends now, but he didn't talk to me for a decade. It was
Man.
Didn't get beat on.
the biggest disaster I ever created.
So I guess he's already answered my next question, which happens to be, what is the biggest snafu moment you've ever had to overcome? Could be failure of equipment, could be anything. Billy, I'm going to go over to you.
Repeat that.
Have you ever had a really bad, maybe an instrument fail or a tube blow
You
up
had
in
to
your
do
amp?
some kind
or-
of a get around to
Yeah.
make it all work.
No, I can't recall it.
Okay.
Can't recall anything like that.
Well, any kind of snafu, like he just described here, would be perfect. Mike, how about you?
Yeah. Singing and playing harp, you can always make up words. And that's a good way to sometimes see if people are paying attention. If you say something just to see if somebody flips you off or at least acknowledges that you said something different, that's cool. So forgetting words was never a problem. Not checking to make sure all my harps were working happened a couple times, and that's not good because that's a dead zone. If you have a flat harmonica, if you don't have a backup, you're dead in the water. You're just going to make stuff up and doing something on the top half or the bottom half and skipping it. No, it doesn't work all that well. So that was self-imposed. It wasn't that was the venue. That was just user error.
All right, Eric, how about you?
Oh boy. I mean, there's been so many equipment failure stories over the years. As Mike knows, I've blown up.
I call him the Ampire
Yeah,
because he's a vampire of amps. He
I have
just sucked
blown
the
up a
life
lot of
right out of
amplifiers
him.
in my day. That's not the worst of the problems. I've right. Gosh, between broken strings and things, I've got down to 3 strings before, and then I kind of had to stop. I was able to get through an entire set with 4.
Oh man.
But once you get down to 3, it was and it was an odd 3. It wasn't 3 consecutive. So it was like, how can I even make a chord out of this? But one of those instances I remember where I blew up an amplifier, so we had to plug straight into the PA for the rest of the night, and I was shorting out the monitors. So I had no monitors, and then whatever the distorted sound that was coming out of the main, apparently it was good enough to get through the gig. So
Okay.
Remember that
still
time
got
up
paid.
at that festival?
Yeah.
And the PA started on fire when
Uh-huh.
you guys were
I
playing?
sure did. Yeah, we literally.
And Bob was there too.
Yeah, we literally set the PA on fire. Yeah.
Wow.
I
I
have
had
a
to
long
stop the
history of
show
that.
because the PA was on fire.
That's the price to pay for being an exciting entertainer. You know what I mean, Irv?
Indeed.
Yeah.
He's pushing all the equipment to its limit.
Fortunately, I didn't pay that price because they all had insurance.
There you go. There you go.
Talk about weird venues. Didn't have any weird, bad experiences with the venue owners other than arguing about money and stuff. But one of the more interesting venues was a place called Shifty's in Las Vegas. And it was a motorcycle joint, and it was narrow. It had a bar and then a whole hallway going to a decent sized dance floor. And in Vegas, everybody's playing slot machines on a table. Nobody wants to hear the band anyhow. So I'm looking around. It's 2:00 in the morning. I'm just watching and singing and playing and stuff. And I see a woman come in the door and talk to the bar owner. And she points to a couple sitting at a table on the dance floor. You kind of see this about to happen. This woman came in. There's this lovely, happy couple sitting at the table. Woman came in, grabbed an empty pitcher of beer, just walked over, pow, clocked the guy on top of the head. Because he apparently shouldn't have been the woman he was with.
Uh-oh.
Knocked him on his little head, threw it down, said some nice words, out the door. They keep playing.
Sounds like the blues to me, Mike.
Absolutely. That motorcycle guy's coming in and spinning around on the dance floor. That was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Just keep
All
going.
right. Billy, I got a good one for you, bud. In 1959, you met a 16-year-old Jimi Hendrix while you're out on a gig. And when you met him, you had a chance to work with him a little bit, mentor him, and that was the first time he touched an electric guitar. Is that correct?
Well, the first time he got to touch the Stratocaster.
Okay.
Right? His father had an acoustic at the time,
Okay.
and he was 15 instead of 16.
Oh, he's 15.
No,
Wow.
15,
Okay.
and he turned 16 that same year. You know. But we was playing at a place in downtown Seattle, and we was on the intermission because they let all the people that were out, then they get a second crowd coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and he was out there, and the trumpet player that played with us, he went outside mingling with the crowd. So Jimmy saw him, and he told him, he said he wanted to meet, could you introduce him to meet, guitar player, which just happened to be me. And he came and told me, he said, man, he says, the guy out here want to meet you, I said, man, I'm trying to find one of these ladies to go to
I'm busy.
the hotel. But I said, I ain't got time for no guy, He said, okay. So he went back out, and he came back later, and he said, man, come on, you say something, this guy, he's getting on my nerve. I said, man, what I told you, I don't want to meet no dude. I want to meet some woman, So the third time he came back, he said, man, come and get this MF off me. And he was all kind of profanity, said, get the, he getting on my goddamn nerve, And I said, okay, calm down. I'll meet him, So we went to the door, and I opened the door, and he was standing there, and we looked face to face, and he was I got such a good warm vibe from him, I told him, I said, man, come on in, and that's how we met, and we stayed in Seattle for about a week, and I spent a lot of time, with him, but
You, as I read, you kept in touch with Jimmy and
yeah.
his father
right, yeah,
until Jimmy passed, and then until his father passed as well.
right, yeah, sure did.
Lifelong.
Yeah, right. That's true. I was when the year that he passed, and me and him we saw each other quite a bit, but because I had wrote a song for him, so we went into the record plant to record it, but looked around, there was people coming in, and we never for 3 days and didn't do nothing but party,
So you never got to record with him.
Sure, never did. So he said, man, I gotta go. he called me up that about 3 days later. He said, "Man, I got to go to England, and something like that." He said, "I'll be there." He said, I'm gonna get up some more time. We're gonna go in and record the song. I said, "Okay," and this last I heard. The next thing I heard, he's passed
Wow.
away.
Yeah. Anybody else on the panel have a story similar?
About Jimi Hendrix?
Beat that one.
Brushes with greatness.
Oh, go ahead, Mike. Brushes
I
with
met-
greatness.
I met James Cotton at the bathroom in a bar in Detroit somewhere. Just walked up and he had a drink that was flaming. I swear to God, there was smoke coming out of it, and I'm just at the bathroom, and one of my harmonic heroes next to me. He's mumbled something, but that was my brush with greatness there. Corky Siegel a couple times, and
Yeah.
ran into him, and some people at the Grandy that you bounced off of that you don't remember who they were. Might have been the Who, might have been somebody else. You can't top a Hendrix story like that. It's
Eric, how about you?
Honestly, I've had so many.
Pick a good one. Pick a fun one.
Oh, I got a James Cotton story myself.
All right.
I opened for him, but I probably shouldn't tell that here.
I was delicate with the bathroom one. You can do that.
No, this is much beyond that. A personal, I'll say this. This was a good one. Eddie Van Halen, growing up in the era that I grew up with, was always a big hero to me. Obviously, one of the greatest guitar players of all time.
Indeed.
And so when I was playing with Johnny B, we had, he was really friendly with Sammy Hagar from the Ronnie Montrose connection. Of course, the Rockets opened up for Van Halen on their early tours. So he called me up. He says, "Yeah, we're going to go see Van Halen." And I said, "Sounds great," and it was Van Hagar at the time. So we go and we're backstage, and, there's really kind of I would say a paucity of beer at the time, so they come in the room and Eddie comes in and I go, "Man, Eddie, I thought this was a, damn rock and roll show. Where's the fucking beer?" And so he yells at one of the staff, and this was at Joe Louis Arena at the time downstairs in the backstage. So he yells something at these people, and the next thing you know, the freight elevator doors, and it's just cases of Heineken on ice being brought in. And so we just had a really great hang. And then my favorite part of the night was, we had all access. So I'm standing in the photographer's pit in the front of the front row. And I got my beer on the stage. And he's doing Eruption, the guitar solo.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm in front of the front row. Really, let's just say I was feeling no pain. Okay. So he's doing his guitar solo. Of course, it's the giant rock and roll stage, and he comes walking across the stage, and he's doing his thing, and he looks down, and he sees me standing in front of the hole, and he remembered me from backstage having beers and laughs. And he goes, "Oh," and hits a couple of licks as he points at me. And as he does that, I raise my beer up to 20,000 people at the arena.
Oh.
That was a good time for me.
How about you, Mike?
Oh, there's a few, but I think my favorite is when I was doing Detroit Blues Band one night. We were at the Soup Kitchen Saloon downtown, a famous place
Come on.
in its day, and there was nobody there. There was about 8 people in the whole building, and the downtown Detroit Blues Festival thing was going on. Albert King was playing, Albert
Oh,
Collins
man.
was playing. It was all going on.
Plaza.
And we're like, yeah, nobody's going to come, but we got this gig, so we're doing it. And all of a sudden, this guy comes in, and he's got cameras and passes all hanging off him. He's all excited. And he's like, bursts in, and he's like, "Where is everybody?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Where's all the people?" And I'm like, They're not here. I don't know what you're talking about." He goes, "You didn't hear?" I go, "Hear what?" He goes, "Albert Collins just announced on stage down at Hart Plaza that the whole band was coming over here to jam with you guys.
Oh, wow.
And this place is about to be full of people." And sure enough, within a half an hour, the bar is completely full.
Wow.
Now Albert and the whole band comes strolling in. Place is going nuts. I'm doing sound, remember. Detroit Blues Band is 2 guitars, bass, and drums. Albert Collins is 3-piece horns, piano, guitar,
Yeah.
And I have like 5 minutes to turn that into that. So we just grab one microphone, shove it in the piano. Here's a horn mic, and here's one for Albert, and go. And they play for like an hour. And then they call up Jim and he jams with them. And then when the whole thing was over, this was the moment that was always resonates with me. When the whole thing was over, Albert was walking by and no one was really around right in that moment. And I said, Albert, I just wanted to say I'm a big fan. It was really, an honor to do sound for you tonight. And he looked up and he said, son, you made me sound good tonight.
Right.
Wow.
And stuck
There
his
you
hand
go.
out.
All right.
Another one.
You got another one?
Another one.
He's
Remember
got
that?
And I have that all recorded.
Do you?
Oh, and then the final part of it is that catastrophe calamities happen.
Yep.
I would record all my shows back then, just an amateur thing. But my recorder had broke that very night and it was sitting there broken. So my friend who does electronics was there with me, Tony. And when that guy came in, I said, Tony, you got about a half an hour. You got to get that recorder working
Oh, wow.
because Albert Collins is coming. And he finally got it working, but in order to make it work, he had to sit there and hold this one lever with his hand
The whole time.
the whole time
Oh,
to
that's
make it happen.
dedication.
So he just sat there holding that lever and we got the recording.
We got to talk. We got to talk. I got to hear that. All right, Mike, go ahead.
I remembered, I lived in Chicago for a couple of years, and the first year, my wife didn't come down to join me yet, so every weekend it was cruising all the blues joints and getting all the jams and seeing all these people that were
Memorable
my
times.
heroes. Oh, yeah. And I was at Buddy Guy's bar. I'd been there a couple of times before. And I
Which one?
walked in.
The old one? The first one?
Downtown, under the
There was the
railroad
first.
tracky one. Walking, there's nobody there. It's supposed to be a band, there's nobody. So I'm having a beer and looking around stage and asked the little waitress lady, so where's the band? I said, I don't know. Ask Buddy. I said, where's Buddy? He's sitting right behind you. I spun around and had a beer with Buddy Guy, and he told me, this asshole musician, go down to Checkerboard. So he sent me down to Checkerboard.
Yeah.
Had a
Junior's place,
long
yeah.
night there. Yep.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Billy, I was going to ask you as a follow-up when we were talking about Jimmy, and we're going to springboard into another question after this one, but if Jimmy were still here, if we hadn't lost him back when he passed, where do you think he might be? Because he truly was a genius, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, had you at that point when you saw him come on the scene and you kept in touch as he was going over to England and whatnot, had you ever seen anybody that was doing anything like what he was doing with any
No.
truly all to his own, huh?
Yeah, well, I would say so.
Yes, sir.
Well, didn't he get some stuff from Guitar Shorty? Did you know Guitar Shorty?
Yeah, I know.
I figured you did.
Yeah. It does show they.
I've heard that, but you would know
Oh
whether
yeah.
or not that was true.
Oh yeah. Well, he knew a lot of people. He ran across a lot of people during that time. Cause when he left, because he came left Seattle in the '60s.
Mhm.
So he came selling it because I had introduced him to Hank Ballard because I got drafted in '62. So I wanted him to take my place, So I taught him the songs, and Hank Ballard hired him, but 2 weeks later he let him go,
Wow.
and I didn't know that. He told me about that years later after becoming famous. He said, "Man, they left me in Tennessee. They had no money. They had no." I said, "No kidding. Hank did that, Yeah, but that happened, and that was in the mid '60s.
Before I forget, I know that you served in the military, and I wanted to say thank you for your service. I have a
Oh,
challenge coin for you. Thank you
Oh.
very much, sir.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Billy, I want to come back to you one more time here because you truly are a part of the storied past of the Motown years in the Metro Detroit area because you and the Upsetters served as Barry Gordy's first in-house band.
Right.
How did your work with Barry influence those early days in the development of the blues as well as the Motown sound in Detroit?
Well, it started out real nice. Cause we were playing and Barry came in, and introduced himself and said, well, and then he wanted us to start working with him. I said, okay, he said, I don't have no money right now to take care of you guys like that. Like, you know, he said, but if I make it, you stick with me. If I make it, you make it. That was our deal. We shook hands on that. A couple of years later, we had a he had a gig. He had a cabaret to do at the Ferry Center on Ferry and Woodward.
Mm-hmm.
And my band called me that morning. The gig was Friday. They called me but early in the Friday morning. Man, we ain't gonna do this. We need to get paid for. So we've been working with Barry for 2 years, and we ain't got no. I said, man, you know, ain't no gig. You know, we just gonna do the gig, and that's it. He's trying to get so he can have the money to take care of us, you know. But that was my bass player. He called me, and he had his keyboard player called me. The drummer called, all of them called me with the same thing. They not gonna do it. I said, we promised the man we was gonna do the show, you know. No, man, we can't do it. We gotta get at least $9 a man, you know. So I told Barry that, you know, so Barry, oh, he mad. He said, man, you gave me your word. I said, Barry, I said, it ain't me. I said, my band said they're not gonna do it unless they get $9 each, you know. And this the first time I ever heard it. He said, your word is your bond. But after that, that's when we broke up with him, you know, because he's the type of guy, you mess up with him one time, you ain't get a chance to do it again, you know.
Yeah.
But that's how it started off great, but that's how it ended, you know. But him and I still remain friends, you know, but we couldn't do business together, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because I never forget he told me, your word is your bond. You give your word, you know, but nothing I could do about it because my band said they wasn't going to do it.
You got to see some really incredible things in those early years of Motown, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What kind of influence do you feel you might have had on the music development of that day?
Well, it was probably different because the musicians that came in after I did was basically jazz musicians,
Okay.
and we were mostly rock and roll and rhythm and blues, you know. So that was the difference.
Okay. Eric, I need to hit you with a question as well, sir. I noticed that you've worked with Grammy-nominated singer Earl Thomas, who's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah, sure have.
We've become good friends over the last 6 months or so because of the program.
Mhm.
How did that opportunity present itself to you?
Well, you know, I lived in California for about a decade, San Diego, where Earl was at the time, and Los Angeles for a couple of years as well. So a mutual friend had invited me down to go hear Earl, and he was doing an acoustic duo at the time. And he had a fine guitar player with him who later became a friend of mine, Mark. And so Earl invited me up to sit in, and Mark graciously loaned me his guitar, and I took his gig. That's how it started.
There you go.
And you worked with him for how long after that?
About 2.5 years on and off. Yeah.
And you said you got a good story you want to share.
Well, yeah, I have a funny story.
This is
Because
my
you know,
fault,
I'm
Earl.
always-
I asked for it.
I'm always grateful for the opportunities and the times I had with Earl. I knew his father, Earl T, quite well, and we were really, really close. He was a tremendous blues man, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So Earl, anyhow, this was years after, and of course we'd had our ups and downs as it goes in the business, and but there was always a lot of, you know, mutual respect there. So as I said, you know, I mean, he'd been used to a lot of these California guys or the Euro guys, and you know, Detroit guy shows up and he's getting something a little bit different. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working together, and you know, through the ups and downs and what have you. And I remember we were doing some acoustic duo shows, so he went and he got a couple of jackets for us, like some
Okay.
really, really snazzy tuxedo jackets.
Okay.
a gold one and a silver one. And, you know, Earl, he's like, well, I want the gold one. I said, no, I want the gold one. So he's like, all right. And he's got the silver one and I got the gold one. And then we're going to fast forward here to about a decade ago, and I'm back home. And I'm playing with Joey Farner, not Farmer, that's Mark Farner's son.
Okay.
Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah.
So Joey and I are doing an acoustic duo up in Flint, his hometown, with Thornetta Davis, my good friend, in
Love
Detroit,
Thornetta.
our queen of the blues.
Yes.
And Greg Nagy, also a top performer around here. So we're doing this show together, all 3 acts. And so I'm there with my dear brother Joey, and you know, we're all sitting around the table, and he's like, God, you know, I got to call Earl, because you know, Earl wrote a song for Greg, and he was working on some stuff with Thornetta too. So he goes, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to call, you know, Earl. And this had been some years since I'd seen Earl, you know, a decade since
Sure.
I'd moved back. So he goes out, he's having a cigarette. We all look out. He's on the phone with Earl. And he comes in, and I'm like, hey, man, what did he say, you know? And Joey looks at me and he goes, well, he says, you know, tell Thornetta that I love her and I'll see her soon and have that song for her. Tell Greg I love him and I'll have that song for him soon. I'm really excited about this song we're working on. And tell Erich I want my jacket back.
Wow.
Tag on something
Go ahead.
that he said about different kinds of personalities. And, you know, all of us know keeping a band together and finding people that can play well, that you don't necessarily want to kill, is the hardest part of a band. They're
You
just
got that
different
right.
personalities. And when I lived in Vegas, the guys in the band I was in, California guys, Nevada guys, were auditioning a drummer. A bunch of guys weren't any good at all.
Mhm.
Guy comes in, little attitude, sits down, plays a couple songs, says, so we got a band or what? He's from Chicago. I said, that's our boy. And we played together for a number of years, and him and I could go nose to nose, scream at each other, call each other the worst singing, stupid voice, whiny little voice guys, and the rest of the guys would be back in the corner. And we go, you all right? Yeah, cool. You go on to play again. It's different personalities. It's a hard thing to keep everybody together.
You know, I agree. And this was a question that I answered recently on a group I'm in on the internet. And it was, how do you deal with incorrigible, you know, band members that you just don't get along with? And a lot of people had answers to that effect, you know, compromise and the things. And mine was simple as a band leader for many years myself. Now it's fire them. So
It's a good story I heard about Howlin' Wolf in the old days. Who was Howlin' Wolf? You know, and he was just a overpowering man. And there was somebody, he would fire people all the time. And there was one of the band members passed out drunk. And you fired? He says, you can't fire him. He's asleep. He says, well, when he wakes up, he's gonna be a fired motherfucker. And that's
Wow.
it. Yeah, if you're running it, somebody's got to be the bad guy.
you know, just doesn't make you a bad guy.
Nah.
Right, usually the other guy getting fired is probably the bad guy.
Yeah, there's that. You mentioned working with Joey Farner, and I wanted
Yeah.
to revisit that for a minute
Okay, sure.
because it's kind of a cool story. Spending some time working with him. Talk about how that opportunity came together.
Well, Joey and I, Joey's one of my best friends in life. Always has been, always will. He's my true home team. I love him to death. A great singer and front man. And we came on the scene together because our birthdays are 3 days apart, and this goes back to Johnny B and other things. So we kind of came on the scene in the late 80s, as it were, at the same time. And he was hired by a group that used to be called Adrenaline. And then I was, Johnny B was putting his new band together, and I got that gig. So Joey became the new singer for this group, which included Doug Cahan. It was kind of a super group. And then, we had Mark Boulan from Mitch Ryder's band and B for a great rhythm section. And then Jay Jolly, who had actually worked with Doug Cahan and Flash for a little bit. So these groups both started at the same time. So we go way, way back. And God, there's a funny story about this. So there's way too many funny stories for the amount of time we have. But here's a good one, and this is a favorite of mine. So, Joey is great, right? And he had moved out to California before I did, but I wasn't aware of it because I was in Denver for a few years at first, making my way west. So I get out to California. I'm there with my girlfriend at the time. We get an apartment, a couple of blocks from the beach in Ocean Beach, which is my hometown there for a long time. And we had these neighbors next door that were kind of, how do you put it, tweaking? And so they were rather loud and boisterous, and we're kind of, not that we're not used to that as musicians, but it was kind of getting a little ridiculous with the endless partying. So it was one day I'm coming, and my gal, she picks me up, from the guitar shop I was teaching at the time downtown. We get back to the apartment, and as we pull up to the curb, I see this neighbor who I'd complained to already about, shutting the hell up. And so he's there with this other guy, and in between them is this dude who's standing there all covered in tattoos, shaved head, and I'm like, wow, okay. So I look at my girl and I says, well, I guess get ready to call the cops or something. It's me against three, so here we go. So I open the truck door, and I step out, and those two guys are giving me this look, and the guy in the middle, who I didn't recognize, looks at me, and he goes, "You Erich Goebel from Detroit?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "It's Joey."
You didn't recognize him?
Not at all, no,
Oh,
because
man.
when we were kids around here together, we both had red hair down to here. Now, of course, it's only out of my chin, and same with him. We have the same barber these days, so he was totally unrecognizable to me. I hadn't seen him in 5 years at least.
Wow.
And, yeah, and that's a true story. So he looks at me and goes, "It's Joey."
It's Joey.
So,
The one constant theme with this group here today is longevity. And each of these guys have, at least in my opinion, deep pedigrees in the blues and other genres. Mike, you also have some great stories, I'm sure. I'd love to hear about forming Gopherbroke, a band that originally came together in '73. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, just 73, we had a couple bands before that, but that came from a band. We stole a couple of guys and swapped a couple of guys out, and Harry Boyer was the guitar player. Harry was in the band Stonefront, legendary band on the waterfront. They lived in the Garwood Mansion and all that stuff. He was a kid playing in that band, so he's got some real chops. And somehow we stumbled across each other, and when we all got along and played. That was 3-4 years, and then bands break up, and you start other things. And other guys are playing. Joe and Jim Morocco were playing in their bands, and we combined a few times. And then I moved to Chicago for 2 years, and I was in Vegas for 25, and came back in 2018 to help take care of my wife's parents, who were about to go away. So I rounded up my brother, who was in the original band, Harry, who was in the original band, Al Leifert from Elginak, Bill Hagen from Richmond, and added a horn section of Joe Morocco, who's a killer sax player.
yes.
And the artist formerly known as James Morocco is now Rocco, trumpet player and guitar player. And we slapped that together and found our way to, okay, we have a horn band. We might want to consider doing stuff with horn sections in it. So we lost a couple of guys and settled in the group that was fortunate to play here and record a couple of times for Mike. And unfortunately, Joe had lip surgery right after the last time we played here in 2024. And he couldn't play for almost a year. We're just starting to get back together again. But it's, in my mind, as much as my wife goes, I've heard this shit for 50 years. I don't need to see you in another band. Don't need to go see you. I know what you do. But all of us were given some amount of talent from God. You might as well use it till you can't. And I have no problem being a front man on stage, playing in front of a bunch of people, intentionally making an ass out of myself. When it gets to the point where I'm unintentionally making an ass out of myself, or I can't remember words to 40 songs, that's my anti-dementia thing. If I still remember words, I'm still stroking. So but you just got to keep doing it while you can. And you know, Billy's certainly a testament to that.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Just keep going, man.
Now you like you just said, the band's been around 50 plus years in various iterations. How many iterations would you say you've had through the years? Because there were some years that you were not part of the band.
Yeah, I think after the first Gopherbroke Band, and we played all the joints up and down Gratiot, Mount Clemens, and Elginak, and Richmond, and Port Huron, and those places. And I think when I left once, and there was another Gopherbroke Band, and that kind of went away. And then there was nothing. Everybody played in other bands and did other things, kept being
That's
involved
the
in
impression
music.
I was getting. There was a pretty long time that the band took a break while you were out of the area, and then reformed after a long hiatus.
Yeah, it was a 30-year gap. I mean, I was Chicago and Vegas for 27 years, and some guys were still alive, some guys weren't. And Joe and Rocco were a great horn section, so we pieced it together. And again, we started doing Who stuff and Aerosmith stuff, and I became uncomfortable at my ripe old age of doing that shit, and not doing it particularly well. And we just kind of found our level with those guys, and they're stellar. The horn section is great. So we're just starting to piece it back together again. And Joe, the first time I played when I moved back from Vegas was with this nice man, the Shady Lady?
Stray Cat Lounge.
Stray Cat Lounge, that was it. And Joe took me there. It was jam night, open mic night. I got up. Mr. Cloyd was playing bass.
That was our band.
That
We
was-
the founder of the Flying Crowbars, myself.
That was
our
a
band.
blast, and I got the honor to meet him and play with him,
God rest his soul.
it was nice to see somebody who's, if he's screwing with you, and then you're okay. And he was good.
It's the blues.
He was good, man. But that's what got us back going, and we'll see if we can milk it for a little while yet.
There you go. Now, speaking of longevity, I want to talk to you for a minute, Mike, because you have been a very well-known name with your label for many years. Matter of fact, you said that you recorded with Billy several times. You recorded with Motor City Josh several times. These guys a few times, and of course, every time
That
somebody
guy a few times.
and him as well, and every time somebody performs here at the shop, you end up recording the event.
Well, yeah, the part of the way this place came about in the first place is that Eric had hooked up with a guy named Tony DiCello
Okay.
and Roger Noonan, and they were playing incredible stuff. And I said, we've got to record this, Eric, because he was recording with me at the time. And I said, this new lineup, we have to get this. This is incredible. This is the next
Phil
level.
was too.
And then Eric said, look, I think they're not going to come in and record, so we're going to need to go record them. So I had Eric's brother, who's quite knowledgeable with computer equipment, build me a computer so that I could have a portable equipment to go to where they were to record them. And then we were just kind of starting out with doing some stuff here. And then Eric said, look, I think if you hired us for a New Year's Eve gig, they'd come here and we could record, And I was like, done. So we brought them in. But then after that, we had all this equipment. It kind of one thing led to another and all this. But that's how it really all started. This equipment was built to record that band. And then when this place formed, and we had already used it, we said, wow, we could have all kinds of bands come in, and it's set up for live recording, which was, I've been running studios since the 90s, but I came to the sudden realization that I never really wanted to be a studio engineer. I wanted to make live recordings. That's what I always wanted. So to have this place is like a dream come true for me, because we have an audience, a recording setup, and everything is put together in a non-amateur way, I'll say.
And I want to
Professional might be stretching it a little, but we're not amateurs here.
And I want to point out what you see behind us is all brand new. This is literally something that developed.
Yeah, we're
December.
sitting where the bands used to play.
Yeah.
This wall used to come down, and that
And you went back how many feet?
was a grow room. But
Yeah,
that's another story. That's another story.
That's how that became available. I didn't realize that.
And this went back how many feet? 9 feet, is it?
I could have touched the wall right here.
No, I'm saying, but
Oh, the addition is about 9 feet.
about
Yeah.
9 feet is about
Yeah.
19 feet wide.
It's 17 feet. wide.
17. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I can add something to this.
Please.
The first gig we ever did here was with the late great Dave Watson,
That's
my
right,
dear brother.
over there.
And then it was Chris Rummel, a legendary blues bassist from around here, and that was my lineup at the time, pre-Tony DeCello and Roger. And we came and we played a 420 party here, and we played against the garage
Over
door.
there. Yep. And it was horrible.
And it just doesn't sound good against the garage door. So when we decided to do the New Year's show, I said, why don't we set up over here? And it just so happened at the time when you had the Altex out front and the piano there that we were kind of in this wooden box, which it is. And it just had this really warm sound. So the difference between playing against the garage door with the draft coming at you and playing in this
was
really
night
kind
and
of
day.
mini theater sort of environment was the total difference.
It was hard to
sound.
believe how much of a
It
difference
was remarkable when we listened to the tapes back, the difference in the sound.
Like, okay, now we got something.
And then after that gig is when it started, when I was doing Tuesday nights with Tony and Roger and then some other musicians too in the rotation, with Philip Hale, one of our great keyboardists and another dear friend of mine. And we had been playing Tuesday nights at the Harbor House in Greektown. And that gig ended, as gigs do. And we had discussed having sort of gotten this place off the ground with a few shows, 420, New Year's and things. And it was like, well, we're free on Tuesdays. So that became Tuesdays in the Park. And that's where this all started.
And for 2.5 years, it was just Eric with who we put him
Special
with a
guests every
different
week.
guest every week
Mhm.
for 2.5 years.
That's right.
Then his mother took ill and he had to leave for Florida.
COVID and
Kind of
all
left
that.
me with like an established thing we had going on,
Mhm.
and our whole focus of it
Right.
is leaving. So I was like, what do I do now? So I looked around and I said,
Yep.
well, we always set this up on the premise that, look, we're not a bar and we're not going to be able to afford to pay what a bar pays. So we made a deal where we were basically doing it for half that. And I said, well, nobody's going to want to do this, And then I said, well, wait a minute. We have a whole list of people that came here as guests.
Right.
We could start with that list and see if they would want to do this. And that's how it grew.
Exactly.
It was,
Great
and that
Billy
list
was
included
guest.
Tasha Owens and Carl Caballero and
Mhm.
all the core members of the people that went on. Billy had done it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were guest.
as a guest. Yep.
I thought it was kind of cool because I just came here for the first time right after you guys got done with the expansion. They had their little sound check, which, by the way, I see you put the sound deadeners up,
Yep. Yep.
and because they had some resonance going on and it didn't sound right, so they needed to deaden the sound overhead over the drums. But I love the way you guys that are sitting here today have no idea from an outside perspective what it's like to come in here and see this neat family. You guys truly are a family. And, yeah. And there's your dad, man. He's putting it all together, man. It's you got Bob the light guy, and you got the sound guy, and you got the guy that does the speakers. I saw walking around here a little bit ago. There he is. Yep. I mean, what a cool place. And that was one of the reasons that I wanted to come here and record today, is to kind of capture this and let people see what this is like and what it's all about. And I appreciate the opportunity to come here.
Hey, we appreciate you coming out and
Guys, you guys have
taking an
all
interest in what we're doing.
absolutely, yeah. You guys have all shared the stage, except for you. You've worked with people on the stage, with big names in music through the years. I would love to pick out a favorite story, if you would. And Billy, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. Somebody that you may have shared the stage with, a big name musician along the way. Could be Motown, could be blues.
Well,
Aside from Hendrix.
what about well, I got my start really with playing with people outside of Michigan with Hank Ballard and the Midnighters.
Okay.
And I was playing at a place called the East Side Show Bar on East Jefferson. And one of the midnighters came by the show. Guy's name was Henry Booth. He came by and told me he was with the Midnighters. So no kidding, that was great. The first real well-known entertainer that I knew. And I was playing, and I asked him, would he want to come up and do a couple songs with us? So he did. And things went so, he said, man, we looking for a guitar player. He said, I'm going to tell Hank Ballard about you. Would you be interested? I said, yeah, but I didn't take him serious. So this guy just pulling my jiving. So he did. He told Hank that he had met, guitar players. So Hank had me to come over for an audition.
Nice.
And I auditioned for about less than an hour. But I knew most of the songs that he had recorded anyway.
Sure.
And he said, okay, well, this was on a Monday. He said, can you leave town Wednesday? We got a gig in Massachusetts. So can you leave Wednesday? I said, yeah, so I still didn't believe it, so, but I packed my clothes anyway. And because I had a gig that same night at the East Side Show Bar, so I had a choice to make. So I had my bags packed to go if they show up, but I didn't believe it was coming. So about half an hour before I'm supposed to be at the East Side Show Bar, one of my bass player called me and said, man, you running late. I said I'll be there, so I'm not. So in less than 30 minutes after that, Hank Ballard had sent his driver to pick me up.
Oh boy.
So I left, I couldn't believe it, So I told my mother and father, I said, I'll call you. I said, I'm going with Massachusetts with Hank Ballard,
Now, how old were you at the time, Billy?
19.
19 years old.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you met Jimmy?
Oh, I was 20. I met Jim in 1959.
Okay.
I was 21.
21 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I turned. Jimmy turned 20. He turned 16 that same year in his birthday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody's got an alarm going off. I hear birds.
That's my pacemaker.
Hey, you know what? That's what live recordings are all about. All right, Mike. How about you, man? I know you're not as a musician, but working as a recording engineer or working with artists along the way. You got any big stories to share? Any of your favorites? Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's
that
kind of
one's
tough to
pretty
beat that
hard.
one.
Well, honestly, when I look back at everything that I've done, and I've said this dozens of times on stage, he's sitting right next to me. When I started this record label out, I used to go to these shows. They were called Jubilees. They were put on by a label called Blues Factory. with
Right,
Steve
right.
Sanchez
Oh,
and the
yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
And they would have 4 bands play, and all this stuff would go on. And Billy was at a couple of these, and he, man, this guy's great. So I start this label, and I'm recording these blues people, and I think, I want to record Billy Davis. I got to find him. Well, I can't find him. For 10 years, I can't find him.
Oh, wow.
So one night, I'm sitting in the New Way Bar on Woodward. Yeah. And I'm talking to some guy I never met before. You know how sometimes you start talking to somebody, and we're bullshitting, and he says he's a drummer, and we're talking and stuff, and I tell him, oh, I'm running this blues record label, and he said, oh, I'm playing in this blues band, and I said, well, you know, the guy I really want to record is Billy Davis, but I can't find him. He says, are you serious? I said, I'm 100% serious. He said, you're not like pulling my leg or something. And I said, no. He said, okay, well, just stay right here. I'll be back. He goes out in the car and he comes down and he sets it down, home burn CD, which was a relatively new thing at the time.
Oh,
you know.
wow.
He sets down a little hand burn CD with Sharpie written on it, and it says, demo, Billy Davis, Rhythm Machine. He says, I'm the drummer for Billy Davis.
Oh, man.
You found him.
Wow.
There you go. How about that?
And then come to find out the whole 10 years, and to this day, Billy lives 3, maybe 4 miles from my house.
No kidding.
And I used to see this guy riding by on this bicycle with a guitar on his back. And I think, man, who is that guy? He's got to be somebody, you know, something's going on there. And it was Billy. And I never knew.
There you go. All right, Mike. Good luck.
Yeah, hard to top those.
Yeah.
When I was in Vegas, I stumbled into being part of the backup band for Moody Scott. He was a guy from the South, had some big hits in the South in the 60s and so forth. Still sells a lot of records in Europe. I became part of his band, but he was the real deal. And he's Billy's age, and you know, before a gig, he just skinny, walking around like he's going to fall over dead any second. We do a sound check, hits the stage, bam. It's like James Brown. He's all over the place and flying.
Oh,
We're
wow.
done. We'll go sit down. He jumped off the stage once in Pahrump, Nevada, for a county fair we played at. And he jumped off a 2-foot or 3-foot stage, and we're all going, is he going to die? And then B, how's he going to get back up on the damn stage? So we walked all the way back around. He's dancing around all over the place. He was the real deal. And he just got a Chick-fil-A commercial. Is going to be playing one of his songs.
No kidding.
Yeah, he called me the other day. It's everybody come clap your hands. First song he ever recorded in the 60s from the old days, but that's going to be on TV. You'll see you hear a brief little blip of my man Moody.
There you go.
He's still at it.
All right. How about you, Eric?
Well, I've been really fortunate in my days to share the stage with many greats, and including Billy here, and it's always an honor. Larry McRae's an old friend. We've done a lot of stuff together. On down the line. But if I had to say, probably my most cherished memory about playing with someone would be another Billy, and that would be Billy F. Gibbons from ZZ Top. And this was in Denver 30 years ago. It was 1996. And I was managing a vintage guitar shop at the time, and we had a pretty cool rock star clientele. John Fogerty had bought an amp from me and a bunch of things. So it was one night as I was getting ready to close to go do the gig afterwards, and as I'm locking up the door, my girl says, "Hey, might want to open the door." And I look up before I close for the night. There's Billy. The limo's parked out front, and Elwood, who's now the bass player for ZZ Top, has been Billy's guitar tech for a long time and manages his collection in Houston and LA. Anyhow, of course, I can't think of a much bigger hero for me than ZZ Top, and I'm kind of ZZ middle. So I'm like, oh, okay, we got one more customer. Oh, wow, is you guys still open? Mind if I come in? So he comes in, we lock the door, and we're hanging out, and he's looking around at a lot of stuff, and we're getting to talk, and I'm going, wow, this is pretty cool. And I just told him, I says, really, it's thrilled to have you here. I've been a fan since I was a little kid. And he goes, well, we're in town tonight. If you guys, you and the lady want to come to the show, I'll put you on the list. I says, thank you very much. And we go to the show and have a great time and chatted up a little bit afterwards. So next tour, sure enough, about a year and a half later, comes walking through the door. There's the limo parked out front, and he comes walking in. And I had a custom-made guitar for me at the time that I played around Denver quite a bit with my friend Erich. It's the Erich and Erich show, we used to call it. In any event, he was pretty impressed with that. So he's like, I got to play this. So I'm like, okay, Billy Gibbons is going to play my guitar. And he goes, well, look, I'm a little thirsty. I'm going to be here a while. And he pulls out his money clip. He goes, well, if one of you guys wants to go down to the liquor store, I'll take a 12-pack of Diet Coke. You guys can get yourself some regular Coke or whatever. So we got a case of beer, and Billy gets some Diet Cokes. And I sat there and plugged Billy into a couple of Fender amps and watched him playing my guitar.
Wow.
So then he hands me my guitar. So I'm playing my guitar while Billy Gibbons is sitting right here. And then after a little while, I says, well, I have to ask you, Billy, because I'm such a fan. And am I playing this right? And I played a lick from the song Nasty Dogs and Funky Kings, one of my favorite ZZ Top numbers. And he's standing there. He goes, yeah, that's it. You got it. He goes, let me see that for a second. He goes, lately we've been trying it like this. And he plays a variation on it. But we thought it sounded a little too sad. But he goes, no, you got it. So we proceeded to pass my guitar back and forth and trade licks for about 45 minutes.
Wow.
And then I played a set of jazz, a couple of things in the, I was a pretty experienced jazz player at the time, in a style like Joe Pass or Tal Farlow, Wes Montgomery. So I played a couple of standards solo, and he stood there with Elwood. And when I was finished, he's like looking he's whispering in Elwood's ear. And when I finished, they're giving me this, And he looks at me and he says, yeah. And he turns to Elwood and he goes, this boy sounds just like Herb Ellis, who is like the top Texas jazz guitar player. So, he used to play with, Oscar Peterson and Ella Fitzgerald and everybody. Wow. So for Billy Gibbons to tell me I sounded like Herb Ellis. Kidding. After trading licks with him for about an hour or so, was probably my favorite moment.
Hell yeah, man. Now, as I look around the room, my company included here, there's over 200 years combined experience sitting around me. Okay. Oh, yeah. Looking back, how do you feel the music industry has changed, AI and streaming notwithstanding? And do you feel these changes have been largely for the better or for the worse? Mr. Boulan, I'm going to start with you.
On the recording end, it's pretty straightforward. What happened in the beginning is that there was only a few bands available. And the heads of the labels didn't have a clue what was going on. So they grabbed their children and said, you kids need to tell us who we should be tracking. So they gave them some bands and they put the shit out and everything was going pretty good. And then those kids grew up and became the adults that they weren't connected anymore, but they still wanted to pick the bands. And that's when it started going a little sideways. But when it really went sideways was when technology fucking ruined everything, because now everyone can make a record and there's an avalanche of material and we're left to try to sort out the good from the bad in a huge flock of music.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was kind of groomed for us. Even if later when it was done poorly, at least it was strained. Now it's unfiltered, and the plus side of that is that unknown bands can rise up. But the negative side is it's hard for unknown bands to rise up through a flock of music. College radio stations get 50 CDs a week or more. They can't even listen to and air them all, and there's just too much. And it's a ironic downside. Yeah. It's really ironic. But that's where it is today, and it's not better.
and talking about, all of that, plus now you have AI involved in the mix.
Well, that's for the future to see. We can't speak to that yet because it hasn't even happened. It's happening right now.
Hopefully we're not here for it.
Right. Yeah. So we're in this lucky group, and I can speak for this group because you attended today, that we grew up on and recognize real music.
Real music.
So you guys can come to a place like this when you find one and see and enjoy real music still.
Yes, indeed.
I don't know how much longer that's going to continue.
Well,
but then again, you see the young people coming up. So there's.
This is true. This is
it
true.
All remains to be seen.
Billy, how do you feel about this? How do you feel the changes have come?
I can't add nothing to that. What Mike Moore, he just answered everything. I can't because it's. Well,
but it's changed a lot from your day, especially.
You lived that. You saw that there were only. Right. You saw that time when there were only many bands and everyone was getting recorded.
Right.
Literally, is that an overstatement? Like if you wanted to get recorded, almost everyone in the beginning was getting recorded. And then later it was a little hard to
Yeah, I was with 5 major labels, and during my time, But those days, it was great because you could leave one record company and go to another one, and it was you could get a deal. But now that's gone.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way at all. You got to
Right.
put it out yourself now.
Right, yeah.
Eric, how about you, sir?
Well, I have my perspective on it. I guess I'm the youngest in the group here. Um, and I'll reference my friend Joey on this too, again, because we were brought up at the end of that era. So we were kind of the last guys that got that, what was once the old record business.
The deal.
It was the deal, and I got to play with on a benefit at the State Theater back in 1990 with Eddie Kendricks, and probably less than a year before he passed away, and we're doing the press conference at the Renaissance Center. So thanks to Johnny B, who I could never thank enough, who's my big brother and hero, really, and probably the main reason that I'm here today. But also with Joey, of course, being a legacy of Farner in the Michigan music history. And both of us, as I'd mentioned previously, coming on the scene at the same time, we were still groomed by what was left of the music business. So we were being prepared for a business that was literally collapsing before our eyes the longer we were involved in it. So I was being prepared for a business that no longer exists. But to the point about what I think has changed, I'd like to expand on what Mike said, and I'm going to reference one of my heroes, Frank Zappa, who had a great statement on this fact. And he said, well, the thing is in the 50s and the 60s, the heyday, as it were, he goes, the record labels were all run by these suits smoking cigars in the office.
Sure.
And, you would come in to the point of, they would record everybody, right? So this guy would sit there with a cigar behind a desk and go, we don't know what the hell it is, record it, throw it on the wall and see if it sticks. By the 1970s, a lot of the hip people started getting involved in the music business. And then these people, John Kolodner and others, who became really important in the business in the 80s. And they didn't have that mentality. They determined, David Geffen would be another one. These people determined that they were the tastemakers and the gatekeepers. So therefore, the options to record everything and throw it against the wall and see if it stuck, like the mothers of invention, there's no way they would get a record deal anymore. So by the 1980s, these people who had taken over the business were no longer just stuffy suit executives willing to give a shot to anything to see if they could make a buck off of it. They were determined that they were the cultural zeitgeist or the tastemakers, and they were going to tell you what was good. And so really ever since the 80s, in my opinion, the quality has just declined. And we don't see, right? And we don't see the talent or the variety anymore. And we see a real narrow amount of people being able to record. It all becomes very derivative, not really a lot of originality or any of that. And so growing up through that, as I did, imagine being prepared for some suit behind a desk going, sure, who's this kid plays crazy guitars? Give him a deal. Whereas, by 1990, it's like grunge music and rap have taken over everything. And it's like, are you wearing a flannel? And can you just go, dum, 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 I hate my life, la, da, 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 da. Well, this is not the music business that I was thinking was going to happen. And it was really all gone by then. So combined with karaoke and amateur hour.
Hey, karaoke is the only way that I can sing, buddy.
Well, you know what,
you to
man?
know that.
I've always claimed that karaoke was the Japanese revenge for the atomic bomb. It's really done a lot of damage to the
Like
culture.
I always used to say when I got up there, the more you drink, the better I sound. So.
Sure. Yeah.
Mike, how about you, buddy?
You really have a two-parter. First on the fact, we said 200 years worth of experience here.
Yeah, at
You got
least.
the youngster over here and so on, and they're gonna come in second, just barely under you there, Billy. But this is a personal one, specifically related to here. The last time we played here, we got the weirdest, coolest compliment I ever got musically in my life. There was a guy that walked up, he had a little CD with our picture on it, and he said, "Look, man, truth is, if I would have seen this picture in the paper, the last thing I would have thought of you guys were Kick-Ass Blues Band." I said, "All right, I can go with that. Let's go ahead." The image is different. On the band side of things, I started in garage bands, and everybody played for whatever somebody got passed in the hat, and you learn to be bad. Dave Grohl had a comment a long time ago I liked his: bands now, musicians now, never learn how to suck. You got to be bad first before you can find out what you're bad at and get better at it. And now, because of technology, anybody can sample stuff and record stuff and fake your voice and record it. You got to get out in front of people and go, "Jesus, what are they doing?"
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen. Nobody's got the patience anymore to do that.
I don't know. There are a lot of kids out that are sounding good these days.
Good.
I've been grateful to mentor
Absolutely.
several of them,
Cool.
including Brendan Lindsley and others
Yep.
who are
Yep.
really
Yep.
kicking a lot of butt.
We're
I'd
going to
say
talk.
10 years ago, the scene was a lot different than it is now.
Very
There's been a big insurgence of new talent and
Yeah.
hope for
We
us
are
old
we are going to
timers.
talk about that.
Talent's
in
always there,
just
but
a
the
moment.
business is not.
Yeah, no.
I think that was the question.
Yeah, the
the
business has
business is
changed
gone.
irrevocably.
Yeah, it's 360 deals for two people instead of throw it on the wall and see if it sticks.
All right, guys, if you could go back in time and give the 18-year-old version of yourself some advice, what would it be? And Billy, I'm going to start with you. If you could
What
give
would you tell
yourself
your
some advice,
18-year-old self if you could tell him
Yeah.
some advice?
Oh,
find a better band for Barry Gordy.
no. 18, I would say learn how to save my money. That's what I would do. Because I made good money, but I spent it fast as I got it. I definitely would do that,
All right,
That's the only thing I could say.
Mike.
I don't know. I think it'd probably just be, this is what you want to do it. Keep on doing it. People tell you you're too young, you're too old, you need to have a regular career. What are you doing still playing music and doing this? If that's what you love, just keep doing it. Find a way to make yourself happy doing what you love to do.
Eric, over to you.
Boy, I would probably look at myself and say, "Hey, man, you're on your way." I feel very blessed and fortunate. So I
Cool.
other than drinking too much whiskey and running with some dangerous women.
Oh, no, you got
But those I don't have any regrets about that because that was some fun times too. So that's all I would say. I would say, "Hey, man, stick with it. You're going to be fine."
Mike Boulan.
Well, after 25 years of running that festival and doing the majority of it myself, I mean, I had incredible volunteer help through the whole thing. I don't mean to sound like I did everything, but I tend to take too many responsibilities. I would delegate more. That's all I would do. I would let people do more things and not do so damn much myself.
Right.
So we talked a moment ago about the next generation coming up. I want to flip this around now, and I'd like to get, because I happen to know, where's Michael? Michael's up there. There he is. We know we got at least one new generation musician in the audience here. We have any others? Raise your hand. Got no one over there? Okay, so we got two.
Cool.
That's all right. I want you guys to give your best advice to these gentlemen and those that are watching. Eric?
Well, I've known Mike since he was, 7? Yeah. And I think I've shared plenty of advice with you, and you're living proof that sometimes my advice is actually good. And we're all very proud of you, Michael, and keep up the good work, young man. And as I would tell every young musician, it's this goes back to the business. Because as Billy understands, and I've been on a major label and things as well, when you're prepared for a business that no longer exists, then you really have to do it because you love it. Because this isn't as easy as it was back then to just say, oh, I'm going to be a big star, or I'm doing this for the chicks or the money, because, I don't know if that's as out there as much as it used to be, but, the fact is there's excellent young talent, and as long as they love it, the music's going to sound good, and eventually they're going to break through, and the business is going to have to recognize you. You don't have to conform to the business. And I think that's super important to consider. Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Now, Billy, you have a history of working with up-and-coming musicians. As a matter of fact, you've worked with Michael and several others. What is your best advice to the next generation coming up?
I would say to be the best that you could be. That you really, because that's where I started. Because I would listen at the radio and heard music playing, and I could just feel it.
Yes, sir.
And I wanted to do it, and that's I would say the music kids coming up now, but like with Mike, I saw him, and I've told people this. I don't know if no one believes though, but I've known Jimi Hendrix since he was 15 years of age.
Yes, sir.
I've known Mike when he turned that age. I look at the development at the same age. Michael is above Jimmy.
Wow.
That is no lie. I was there with it, I know. The same when Michael was 16 years old, when Michael was 16 years old, he was much better playing than Jimmy was. When he was the same age, that's what I'm looking at.
No pressure there.
That's the truth.
All right. Mike?
Wow.
Yeah, but that's what I said.
God bless you, man. And I'm copping to the same theme as everybody else. It's, find your lane, find what about music or what kind of music or whatever you like to do, and just plow straight ahead. Don't hop on different freight trains. It's hard to stay in that path, but just keep doing that, what you want to do, how you want to do it, and try to avoid the weasels.
Mike.
Yeah, now my dad was a preacher, and he told me, "Oh, that's the sin. You playing that kind of music." And I said, "Well, what is wrong with a person? You experience something, you put music to it. What's sinful about that?" They couldn't explain that to me, because I said if I experienced something and I just put the music to it, they're gonna say it's wrong, and I couldn't buy that.
That was a recurring theme in the South, wasn't it?
Yeah, right.
The blues was the devil's music.
Oh yeah, you're going to hell, man.
Yeah.
So I say if a person, let's say he got a girlfriend, he break up with his girlfriend, she put him down, and he go home and write about it and put music to it. I said, how in the hell could that be wrong?
Yes, sir.
They couldn't answer that question.
Mike?
Well, I think it's already been said. He just needs to, or young people coming up just need to learn their craft, and the business, such as is left of it. I think really we don't have the best advice on that because it's a new horizon. So you need to look to where it's going and forge a new path in a sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Because it's going a new place. But at the same time, the only thing that hasn't been said in all this that I think needs to be said is that if you really want to go somewhere in this business, you need to write songs.
Yeah.
Billy is one of the most prolific songwriters I've ever met. Erich writes quite a few songs that are really good. Albums worth material. And that's the key. The people that go to the next level have their own material that resonates.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. All right, gentlemen, most important question as we get ready to wrap here. Where can we send people to learn more about your music? Maybe buy CDs or merchandise, or to book you for a gig? Billy, I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
Well, I would definitely say right here, right here. with Mike, you know, because he records you, and you just, because I look back at some of the people that he, you know, like Little Junior Kennedy, people like that, you know, just they made it start run, and I did about 4 or 5 CDs with Mike ready, you know.
7 or 8.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So is
They
there
keep adding up.
is there a website we can send people to for you? Or we can get that later and put it up?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Mike, pitch it.
Well, you know, this is the place, and
Yeah.
everything
If
stems
you
from
know.
here, like
If
Billy
you
said,
know.
so
I now know.
I think the thing that people need to do to be connected to what's happening here is go to that Facebook group, T.I.T.P, if you know, join up there, because we're constantly putting information about what's going on here in that format. And short of that, just come to this place.
And they've got CDs here. He records the performances. Matter of fact, I got a Billy Davis CD, I got an Erich Goebel CD, I got a Gopherbroke CD. He sent me out here with 7 or 8 CDs that night. And I mean, I bought them because I believe in supporting the musicians.
On you.
You know, and that's something that I truly believe in. We're going to talk more about that in just a little bit. Eric.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have several records out on the No Cover label and Mo Sound with Mike. You can purchase those here. I have my website, which is erichgoebel.com, ERICHGOEBEL.com.
Okay.
And I have a lot of other original musics, some jazz, a number of blues things coming. You can find out where I'm playing at on that website. I'm doing a best of blues compilation that's going to be released at Cliff Bell's on April the 12th, which also happens to be my birthday.
Hey.
So we're going to have a CD release, a bunch of unreleased tracks, and I'm really looking forward to people hearing this. This is a compilation of my best work.
We need to talk when this is done.
Certainly.
All right. Yeah. All right. You all set?
Yeah, I would say, you know, come on out to Cliff Bell's and check out this new record. Check out erichgoebel.com. That's where I'm playing, and I have a lot of music available for download on there. You can always leave me a message. There's a lot of video footage up there, and you can get a bit of my bio and history and links on there too. So.
Mike Shields.
Yeah, with Gopherbroke, we're in the process of rebuilding and getting ready to get out, hopefully in the spring or summer. So the website has changed. It's just gopherbrokeblues.com. Bunch of stuff still on YouTube. Our stuff from live recordings here is for sale. I'm always blasting something on Facebook if we're playing, or you know, the good fortune is sitting with Sunny Blue and the Moons, and that's floating around. And a band called the Chris Daniel Band that we opened the New Baltimore Blues Festival this past fall is kind of reforming. So I'm a big fan of blasting stuff on Facebook.
We got to talk about that hat
seen.
too, because I wear
Nice
a
hat.
similar. Yeah, I might have to get
Got a
one of
guy.
those. You got a guy. Well, Mike Boulan, Billy Davis, Erich Goebel, Mike Shields. I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate you taking time today. We've had a blast. I can't even tell you how long it's been because I haven't looked at my watch yet. But I really want to thank you guys for being a part of this very special edition of Time Signatures. Thank you all.
Happy to.
Okay,
Thanks, man.
thank you.
All right.
For having us.
Well, as we close this edition of Time Signatures, I want to remind you that it takes an estimated 5,000 streams to equal the purchase of a $20 CD. Now, as crazy as that sounds, it's true. And this is why it is my policy that I buy before I stream, okay? It's something that I have made a firm part of my policy since I've done the podcast. If we want to continue to have live music out there, it's my opinion, we need to support these musicians. And believe me, every time you spend $1 with them, they will appreciate it and they will thank you. And I want to thank you all for allowing me to share that with you. That wraps up this edition of Time Signatures. Once again, my thanks to our esteemed host, Mike Boulan. Also, this cast of legendary musicians, Billy Davis, Erich Goebel, Mike Shields, but also all of you. For without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you, keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility. but preserving the history of the blues, one story at a time, remains my mission. Thank you all.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
You know I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.